When you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing that enters your mind? Is it peace? Is it stillness? Or is it noise? The buzzing of notifications, the unfinished tasks of yesterday, the anticipation of today's demands. For most people, the answer is clear. It is noise. Before their feet touch the ground, the mind has already sprinted ahead into the battlefield of the day. We live in a world of perpetual motion. Our thoughts, like an endless river, cascade over one another without pause. The average human mind generates over 6,000 thoughts a day, each one pushing the next into oblivion, rarely allowing space for silence. And yet, in that silence lies the doorway to peace. In that silence lies the path that Zen has walked for centuries. Let's begin with truth, the uncomfortable kind. You are not in control of your thoughts. Most people aren't. They live under the illusion that their mind is a tool they use, when in fact, their mind uses them. It whispers fears, rehearses conversations that never happened, plans endlessly for things that may never come. This is not a conscious process. This is programming, and like any program left running too long, it begins to consume everything. The modern world encourages this cycle. Technology rewards distraction. Productivity is measured not by depth, but by speed. The result? A life where rest is rare, where sleep is shallow, and where stillness is almost non-existent. But what if there were another way? What if peace wasn't something you had to earn at the end of a long day, but something you could live in from the beginning? Zen is not a religion. It is not a belief system. It is not a set of rules to follow. Zen is presence, the radical art of being here now. And one of the first and most profound awakenings in the Zen path is realizing just how rarely we are truly here. Our bodies may be present, but our minds are scattered across timelines. Regret pulls us backward, anxiety pushes us forward, and in between, the moment passes, unnoticed, when you begin to observe the mind instead of identifying with it, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see the patterns, the loops, the voice that constantly narrates your life without your permission. Why did she say that? What if I fail tomorrow? I shouldn't have eaten that. This voice is like background noise you've gotten used to. So used to, in fact, that silence feels unfamiliar, even frightening. But this silence, this space between thoughts, is not a void. It is not emptiness. It is awareness, and the awareness itself is the key. Zen teaches us not to fight the thoughts, not to suppress, not to control, not to resist, but to simply observe. Observation without judgment is the first crack in the illusion of the overactive mind. Let's return to the beginning. Picture yourself in your own home. You're seated quietly. The phone is off. No one is talking to you. There is no television, no music, just silence. But within minutes, sometimes seconds, you begin to feel uncomfortable. Your leg itches. A thought about a bill you forgot to pay arises. A memory of an awkward conversation from last week shows up, uninvited. And before you know it, you're no longer in the room. You're elsewhere, mentally, emotionally, lost in the fog of thought. This is the autopilot. This is the default mode of the untrained mind. And it is this mode that robs us of rest, clarity, and ultimately sleep. When the mind is in this state, sleep becomes an act of surrender that it cannot perform. You may close your eyes, but the thoughts continue. You toss, you turn, your body begs for rest, but your mind keeps running. This is why so many people lie in bed, exhausted and wired at the same time. The engine is still on, even though the driver wants to rest. Zen approaches this not by offering pills or distractions, but by inviting you to watch the engine, to sit beside it, to study its movements, and eventually to stop fueling it. The practice of sitting, Zazen, is deceptively simple. You sit, you breathe, you observe, and in doing so you confront the chaos inside, not with aggression, not with judgment, but with stillness. You watch the thoughts like leaves floating down a stream. You don't chase them, you don't resist them, you just notice. At first it's uncomfortable. The mind rebels. It wants to do something. It wants stimulation. It wants to fix, to plan, to revisit, to relive. But with time, something shifts. The thoughts lose their grip. The urgency dissolves, and in the space left behind, peace begins to emerge, not as a reward, but as your natural state, a state that was always there beneath the noise. And this is the foundation. Before any technique, before any ritual, before any mantra, there must be awareness. Without awareness, you are a passenger in your own mind. With awareness, you become the observer, and from observation comes choice. Most people think they choose their thoughts. They don't. The thoughts arise like weather patterns. You don't choose the clouds, the rain, the thunder, but you can choose whether to step outside. You can choose whether to react or remain still. Zen teaches this choice, the subtle but powerful shift from reaction to response. And this is where true rest begins, not in the absence of thought, but in the absence of identification. When a thought arises, I'm not good enough. What if I fail? They don't respect me. You do not resist it. You do not argue with it. You simply watch it pass. You do not believe it. You do not become it. And in that non-becoming, you reclaim your inner space. Zen masters often speak in paradoxes. The quieter you become, the more you hear. The best way to control your mind is to let it go. These are not riddles, they are invitations to step out of the noise and into the presence that lives underneath it all. Imagine your mind as a glass of muddy water, stirred constantly. The water remains cloudy, but if you let it sit, the sediment settles, the water clears. This is the mind in its natural, undisturbed state, still, clear, reflective. And this stillness is not a luxury. It is not reserved for monks in temples. It is your birthright. It is the ground beneath the storm of your thoughts. But to reach this ground, one must stop stirring. One must stop reacting. Stop resisting. Stop running. And that begins with awareness. You might ask, how do I become aware? It sounds simple, almost too simple. But the simplicity is the point. Awareness is not something you gain, it is something you return to. You don't acquire it, you uncover it. Like the sky that's always behind the clouds, awareness is always behind the mind's chatter. Begin with one breath, just one. Inhale, noticing the air entering your nose, your lungs. Exhale, noticing the release. That's it. One breath. In that single moment, you are present. The storm calms, even if just for a second, and that second is enough to begin. Zen does not promise quick fixes. It does not offer shortcuts. What it offers is deeper, a transformation in the way you relate to your own mind. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts appear and disappear. You are not the storm. You are the sky. This realization is the beginning of the journey toward quietude, toward sleep. That is not just the absence of wakefulness, but the presence of peace. And to get there, we must begin by seeing, truly seeing, the way the mind moves. Look at your day. Look at how often you are truly present. When you eat, do you taste the food, or are you on your phone, watching a screen, thinking of what's next? When you walk, do you feel the ground beneath your feet, or are you lost in your head, rehearsing, remembering, regretting? Zen does not ask you to escape the world. It asks you to return to it, to experience each moment fully, without judgment, and in doing so, to rediscover the beauty hidden in the ordinary. Stillness is not absence, it is fullness, full attention, full awareness, full presence, and this fullness quiets the mind not by force, but by fulfillment. When you are truly here, the mind has no need to escape. There is nothing to fix, nothing to change, nothing to fear, and so, the journey begins not with a technique, not with a tool, but with a shift in attention, a willingness to pause, to see, to be, even for a moment, even now. This is the first teaching, not written in books, not found in words, but discovered in the silent space between one breath and the next. And it is there, always there, waiting for you to note it. The act of observing, without judgment, is one of the most misunderstood and most liberating teachings in the Zen tradition. It sounds simple, even passive, but it is not. It is the very foundation upon which inner freedom is built. In a world where every thought is met with resistance or commentary, to simply observe becomes a radical act. Most of us are not taught how to look without labeling. From a young age, we are conditioned to name, categorize, evaluate. This is good, this is bad, this is beautiful, this is ugly, and that constant classification of reality becomes the lens through which we experience the world and ourselves. But Zen invites us to take off the lens, to sit with what is, without the compulsive need to alter it with our opinions. Because here's the truth: every judgment is a distortion, not of the world, but of our own perception. And if we live through distortion, we live at a distance from reality. Now imagine this: you're sitting in a quiet room. There's no music, no conversation, just you and your mind. A thought appears. I shouldn't be thinking right now. I'm supposed to be meditating. That's not just a thought. It's a judgment, a belief that your current experience is somehow wrong, and that belief carries weight. It creates resistance, it tightens the muscles, it speeds up the heart. You feel like you're failing, even though you're simply thinking, which is what minds naturally do. Observation without judgment removes that tension. It says, this is what's here. Let me see it clearly, not to change it, not to escape it, but to understand it. Like watching clouds drift across the sky, you begin to see your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations, not as enemies but as movements, as impermanent patterns that rise and fall. In the beginning, this practice feels strange. Our reflex is to react, to evaluate. Why am I feeling this again? This shouldn't be happening. But those are not observations. They are interferences. They are the mind's way of staying in control, of narrating, of maintaining the illusion that it is running the show. True observation is quiet. It does not speak. A thought appears. I'm not doing this right. The observer notes. There is a thought of inadequacy. That's it. No further commentary. No need to solve or suppress. Just the noticing. And in that noticing, something profound happens. Space opens up. Space between the stimulus and your reaction. Space between the emotion and your identification with it. And that space, small at first, grows. It becomes your refuge, your still point, your center. This is not detachment in the cold sense of the word. It is present, intimate, gentle presence. You are not turning away from your experience. You are turning toward it. But without the baggage of judgment, without the stories that imprison you in cycles of shame, fear, or longing. The mind, when left unchecked, becomes a courtroom. Every thought is a trial, every emotion a verdict. You are guilty of being angry.
You are guilty of being afraid. You are guilty of being tired. But Zen says, leave the courtroom, step into the field, let the wind blow, let the rain fall, let the sun rise. Nothing needs a label. Everything is just what it is. And this is not just about thoughts, it's about everything. The sound of a bird outside, the sensation of the floor beneath you, the feeling of your breath entering your chest. These are all parts of your moment-to-moment experience, and they too deserve to be seen. Fully, clearly, without filters. There is a Japanese Zen phrase, sono mama, which means just as it is. It's more than a phrase, it's an instruction. Sit with your life, just as it is, not as you want it to be, not as it was yesterday, not as it might be tomorrow, just as it is, now. This requires courage, because sometimes what is doesn't feel good. It's grief, or anger, or confusion. But if you can sit with it, really sit, without trying to fix or flee, you begin to see that even the difficult emotions are impermanent. They do not stay, they pass, like weather. They come and go, and in the middle of them there is a part of you that is not moved. That part is the observer, and the more you return to it, the stronger it becomes. But we must be careful not to turn observation into suppression. This is not about becoming numb. This is about becoming awake. You feel the fear, but you are not the fear. You feel the sadness, but you are not consumed by it. You feel the joy, and even that, you do not cling to. Everything is allowed, everything is seen, and nothing is held on to. Judgment binds, observation liberates. Now consider the effect this has on sleep. When we judge our inability to sleep, why am I still awake? This is bad. I have to wake up early. This is going to ruin tomorrow. We create layers of tension. The body may be lying down, but the mind is in a spiral. That spiral is fueled by judgment. But if you simply observe, I'm awake, my body is resting, thoughts are moving, that's okay. You remove the fuel. You allow the nervous system to relax. The breath slows. The body remembers how to let go. Zen is not about forcing the mind into silence. It's about allowing silence to reveal itself. Once the noise is no longer being fed, one of the most beautiful practices in Zen is shikantaza, which means just sitting. You don't focus on the breath. You don't repeat a mantra. You don't visualize. You just sit, eyes open or slightly closed, and you observe whatever arises. At first, this seems pointless. What's the technique? What am I supposed to do? But that's the trap. That's the doing mind, the striving mind, the judging mind. In shikantaza there is no goal, and in that absence of goal, something extraordinary happens. You meet yourself, unfiltered. Not the idea of yourself, not the role you play, but the raw, unedited presence of awareness itself. You realize that peace isn't something you have to reach, it's something you return to, by dropping the judgments, the labels, the endless mental commentary. And over time, this practice changes how you move through the world. You become less reactive, less entangled, more spacious. When someone criticizes you, you feel the sting, but you don't collapse into it. When anxiety arises, you feel it in your chest, but you don't panic. You observe, you breathe, you remain. This is the heart of Zen. Not to escape life, but to enter it fully, without resistance. And this is also the gateway to rest. When your relationship with your own mind softens, your nights become softer too. You no longer lie in bed wrestling your thoughts. You watch them, you let them pass, you breathe, and eventually, like leaves carried away by the stream, the thoughts dissolve. What remains is stillness, and in that stillness, the body remembers how to sleep, deeply, naturally. This is not a technique to master. It is a habit of being cultivated gently, patiently, day by day. So begin now. Don't try to fix anything. Don't try to change. Just sit. Just breathe. And when a thought arises, see it, Don't touch it, don't push it, don't chase it, just see, and let it pass. This is the first step, and in truth, it may be the only step you ever need. There is something you do every moment of your life, without notice, from the instant you were born to the moment you fall asleep tonight, and far beyond. It has never stopped. It happens in joy. It happens in sorrow. It happens whether you are aware of it or not. It is the breath, and yet despite its constancy, most people live as if the breath were background noise, an automatic function, a detail of the body, like the heartbeat or digestion. But the breath is not a detail. The breath is the doorway. It is the bridge between the body and the mind. The anchor of awareness, the silent guide that leads us home. In Zen, the breath is not controlled. It is not forced. It is not manipulated into submission. It is watched with the same quiet reverence with which one might observe the surface of a still lake. The breath reveals everything. It speaks the truth about your internal state. Without a single word, watch a person in fear, and you will see a breath that is shallow, rapid, high in the chest. Watch a person in peace, and the breath moves like a wave, slow, deep, flowing from the belly. The breath mirrors the mind, but, and this is the secret, the breath can also influence the mind, not by control, but by returning to its natural rhythm. In a world that encourages tension, performance, and speed, the breath becomes tight. People hold their breath in traffic. They clench their lungs in meetings. They suppress sighs, mask fatigue, and tighten their chest against emotions they do not want to feel. And over time, they forget how to breathe. But the body remembers. Sit now. Just sit. Wherever you are. And for a moment, forget every spiritual concept, forget every goal, forget even that you are meditating. Just notice the breath. Is it fast or slow? Is it deep or shallow? Where do you feel it most? The nose, the chest, the abdomen. Don't change it. Don't judge it. Simply watch. This act, so simple it seems almost meaningless, is one of the most profound doorways in all of Zen practice, because the moment you watch the breath, you become present. You leave the story of yesterday. You leave the fear of tomorrow. You land here. The breath cannot exist in the past. It cannot exist in the future. It is only now, and so to follow it is to return to now. Zen monks often sit in silence, doing nothing more than this, watching the breath, one breath, then another, not counting, not analyzing, just resting attention on the rise and fall, like watching a tide come in and go out. And in this watching, the mind begins to still, but it doesn't happen immediately. The mind resists. It wants something to do. It wants complexity. It wants noise. It says, this is too simple. And yet what it truly means is, this is too honest, because in the breath, you cannot hide. If you are anxious, the breath reveals it. If you are angry, the breath tightens. If you are sad, the breath falters. The breath is the body's truth, and in Zen, truth is not something to fear. It is something to bow to. When you begin to sit with the breath, you are not trying to fix it. You are reintroducing yourself to your own aliveness. The air moves in, the air moves out. Life continues. You do not make it happen. It happens through you. And with time, you may begin to notice a shift. The breath slows, the body softens, the heart rate stabilizes. Not because you made it happen, but because you stopped interfering. You stopped forcing. You allowed yourself to simply be. This too is meditation, not in the formal, structured sense, but in the raw, elemental sense. A returning, a softening, a remembering. The ancient Zen masters often pointed to the breath as the foundation of practice, not because it was mystical, but because it was real. In a world full of ideas, theories, and abstractions, the breath is direct. You cannot think your way into stillness, but you can breathe your way into it, and here lies the key for those who struggle with sleep. When the day is over, and you lie in bed, the mind begins its spiral. Thoughts come fast, regrets, to-do lists, fears, fragments of conversations. The body may be still, but the mind is a storm. In that moment, turning to the breath is not an escape, it is a lifeline. Breathe in, feeling the air at the tip of the nose. Breathe out, noticing the weight of the body sinking into the mattress. Again, slowly, gently, with attention. No need to force, no need to count, just follow. The breath becomes your anchor in the night, not a technique to force sleep, but a path to release the grip of thought. The mind may still chatter, that's okay, but with each breath you notice, your attention shifts. You move from thinking to being, from controlling to surrendering, and soon, the body receives the message. It is safe to let go. There is a phrase often spoken in Zen, the breath is always enough. What does that mean? It means that in any moment, even the most restless, even the most painful, there is always a place to return to, a home inside the body, a rhythm untouched by chaos. Try it. The next time you feel overwhelmed, in traffic, at work, in conflict, pause. Feel the breath, not in your mind, in your body, not as an idea, as a sensation. Let it move through you, like wind through leaves. Let it lead you back to the ground. This is not about perfect posture or long meditations. This is about remembering that you are not the storm, you are the sky, and the breath is the breeze that clears the clouds. Over time, you may come to see that every emotion as a breath pattern, and by breathing consciously, you are not bypassing emotion, you are creating space for it. You are saying, I see you, I feel you, and I am not afraid. You are building a new relationship, not just with the breath, but with yourself. There is no need to complicate it, no need for fancy terminology. Inhale, feeling your belly expand. Exhale, feeling the body release. If the mind wanders, gently return. That return is the practice. That return is the power. And when you lie in bed tonight, and the mind begins to spin, try this. Place one hand on your belly. Feel it rise. Feel it fall. Nothing else. No pressure to sleep. No battle with thought. Just breath and presence. Breath and surrender. Sometimes, the most spiritual thing you can do is to simply breathe with your whole being. No expectation, no resistance, just presence. That is the Zen way. That is the breath gift, and it is always available. The past is a weight we carry in silence. Sometimes it lingers as a whisper. Sometimes it echoes like thunder. But always, always, it is behind us. And yet how often do we live there? As if we could change what has already happened. The memory replays, the feeling returns, the wound reopens, again and again. The future, on the other hand, is a ghost. We try to grasp, a projection, a question without an answer. We chase it with plans, fears, hopes, expectations. We build lives upon things that haven't yet occurred, and in doing so, we miss the one thing that is real. The present. Zen does not deny time, but it does ask us to examine our relationship with it, because for most people, the mind is not here. It is caught in what was, or what might be, and in that tug of war, peace is lost. You may think you're lying in bed at night, simply trying to rest, but the mind may be somewhere else entirely, reliving an argument, replaying a decision, anticipating tomorrow's burden. The body is still, but the mind is on fire, and that fire burns away your rest. But what if we learned to release the past? not by forgetting it, but by no longer feeding it. What if we met the future not with anxiety, but with presence? Zen teaches that both the past and the future are illusions, not in the sense that they never happened, or will never arrive, but in the sense that they do not exist in this moment, and since this moment is all we ever truly have, living in anything else is a kind of exile. Let's begin with the past. The mind is endlessly creative when it comes to suffering. It takes a single moment, a mistake, a heartbreak, a regret, and replays it hundreds, even thousands of times. It colors it with shame. It asks unanswerable questions. What if I had done it differently?
Why did they say that? How could I let it happen? But every time we revisit the past with judgment, we relive it.
The body doesn't know it's a memory. It reacts as if the wound were fresh. The breath shortens, the muscles tense, the heart races. This is how trauma loops itself. Not just in the mind, but in the nervous system. Zen offers a different path. It does not ask you to deny what happened. It asks you to see that it is not happening now. This distinction is everything. There is what happened, and there is the story you continue to tell. The images, the emotion, the inner dialogue. Most suffering lies not in the event itself, but in the story you carry about. And when you sit in stillness, when you bring your attention back to the breath, you begin to see that story for what it is, a mental construction, not false, but no longer necessary. And slowly, gently you let it go. Letting go is not forgetting, it is not pretending, it is honoring what was, and choosing not to carry it further. Like setting down a heavy bag you've held for too long. You acknowledge it, you thank it for its lesson, and you walk forward without it. Now the future, it wears many masks. Hope, ambition, fear, dread. Some of them look beautiful, some terrifying, but all of them pull us away from this moment. And in chasing the future, we create suffering where none exists yet. You lie in bed and think, what if tomorrow is hard? What if I don't sleep? What if I fail? Each thought sends a ripple through the body, a chemical reaction. The system prepares for a threat that isn't real. Not yet, maybe never. And so, we suffer twice, once in imagination, and again in reality if it ever comes. Zen reminds us that the future is not something to be solved, it is something to meet. Breath by breath, moment by moment, with awareness. You do not prepare for the future by obsessing over it. You prepare by being fully present now. The more fully you live this moment, the more ready you will be for whatever comes next. And when next arrives, it too will be now. This is the paradigm. The more you let go of the future, the more powerfully you can shape it, not through force, but through clarity. A clear mind sees what is needed. An anxious mind sees only what it fears. So how do we silence the future? Not by suppressing thought, but by returning again and again to this moment, to this breath, to this body, to the sensation of being alive. Right now, when a thought about the future arises, notice it. There is planning, there is fear, there is anticipation. Then gently return to the breath. You don't have to fight the thought. Fighting is another form of attachment. You simply see it, name it and return. This is training, like strengthening a muscle. You won't always succeed. That's okay. The practice is not perfection. The practice is return. And over time, the thoughts lose their grip. The stories soften. The body relaxes. And the present moment, once overshadowed, begins to reveal itself. It may come in the sound of the wind, the warmth of a blanket, the beating of your heart. These simple things often unnoticed, become sacred. They become your ground, and then something shifts. You realize that this moment, just as it is enough. No need to change it, no need to escape it. In this moment, there is nothing missing. This is the peace you've been searching for, not in the past, not in the future, but here. Zen calls this state suchness, things as they are, unfiltered, unjudged, whole. And when you live in suchness, sleep comes not as an escape, but as a continuation of presence. The mind doesn't fight it, the body doesn't resist it. You let go not because you're tired, but because there is nothing more to hold on to. This is the sleep of one who is at peace with life, and it begins with a single decision: to release what no longer exists, and to stop chasing what does not yet exist, to be here, now. Again, and again, and again, there is a space in the mind that is not made of thoughts. It cannot be measured, described, or even truly captured in words, but it exists, and once you become aware of it, not intellectually but through experience, everything begins to change. You spend most of your life thinking, one thought follows another, like dominoes falling in a perfect sequence. Some thoughts are loud and obvious, planning what to say, remembering an event, worrying about an outcome. Others are subtle, almost invisible, a quiet judgment, a flicker of insecurity, a background hum of anticipation.
And in between those thoughts, there is silence. It doesn't last long, sometimes a fraction of a second, but it's there. A gap, a pause, a moment where you are not caught in content, but present in awareness. And Zen invites you, patiently, quietly, to rest there, not to force the silence, not to create it, but to notice it. At first, you may not even believe it's real. The mind moves so quickly, so persistently, that it seems like there's no space between one thought and the next. But if you slow down, if you truly sit, breathe, and observe, you begin to see the truth. The silence was always there. You just never learned to see it. And it is not empty. This is the mistake most people make. They believe that silence means absence. But in Zen, silence is presence. Full, alive, vast. Like the space between notes in music, or the pause between waves at sea. This silence is not the opposite of thought. It is the ground on which thought dances. It is the canvas, the sky, the stillness that makes everything else possible. When you begin to rest your awareness in this space, even for brief moments, a transformation begins. You are no longer pulled into every thought as if it were truth. You see them arise, you see them dissolve, and in between you see yourself, not as a thinker, not as a doer, but as awareness itself. This shift is not dramatic. It is subtle, gentle. It doesn't come with fireworks or revelation. It comes in stillness, a recognition, a homecoming. You begin to realize that you are not the noise in your mind. You are the silence beneath it. And this silence is not distant. It is always one breath away. Inhale, exhale, pause. There it is, that moment where there is no thought, no tension, no striving. That is the gateway to peace, to clarity, to rest. Zen does not ask you to destroy your thoughts. That would be impossible. It simply asks you to stop identifying with them, to see them as clouds passing through the sky, and to notice the sky itself. The sky is not disturbed by the clouds. It holds them, allows them, but it remains untouched. So too with the mind. This practice of noticing the space is not something you do once. It is a return, again and again. Each time you notice yourself lost in thought, you return, gently, with compassion, without judgment. You return to the breath, to the body, to the silence between, and in doing so you begin to live differently. You speak more slowly, you listen more deeply, you react less, you reflect more, because you are no longer trapped in the stream of thoughts. You are watching the stream, and that simple shift gives you space to choose, to breathe, to be. This space is not only for monks. It is not found only in temples or caves. It is available in your kitchen, your car, your bed, especially your bed, because at night when the world quiets and the distractions fade, the mind gets louder. Thoughts you ignored all day come to the surface. Stories you thought were forgotten come knocking, and if you meet them with resistance, they grow. If you chase them, they run. But if you meet them with silence, not a silence of suppression, but of presence, they lose their power. You lie there, and a thought arises. I'm not tired enough. You notice it. Then silence. Another thought. Tomorrow will be hard. You notice it. Then silent. That silence is not nothing. It is everything. It is rest before sleep. It is peace before dreams. And over time, the more you return to that silence, the more natural it becomes. You no longer fear the night. You no longer battle with your mind. You lie down not to escape, but to return to yourself. Zen calls this no mind, not in the sense of emptiness, but of freedom. A mind not dominated by thought, a mind at rest in awareness. And when the mind rests, the body follows. Sleep is not something you do, it is something you allow. And silence is the invitation. So in your practice, whether sitting, walking, or lying in bed, begin to notice the space, the pause at the end of the exhale, the stillness before the next thought. Don't force it, don't seek it, just walk. The silence will find you, and when it does, you will know, because in that silence, there is no fear, no lack, no striving. There is only presence, and presence is enough. It always was. The body holds stories the mind has forgotten. Tension in the shoulders from years of responsibility. Tightness in the jaw from words never spoken. A heaviness in the chest from grief that was never given space to breathe. The body remembers what the mind suppresses. And yet in the rush of daily life, we rarely stop to listen. We think of relaxation as something passive, lying on a couch, watching a screen, drifting off to sleep. But real relaxation is not passive. It is not unconscious. It is a conscious descent into the body, a return to the ground beneath the thoughts. It is active presence, a practice of deep listening, not to the world, but to yourself. In the Zen tradition, the body is not something to be escaped or transcended. It is sacred. It is the vessel of awareness, the mirror of the mind, the temple through which the present moment is experienced. To ignore the body is to ignore half of your being. To return to it is to return to wholeness. And yet when most people try to rest, they find that the body does not cooperate. The muscles ache, the breath feels trapped, the heart races. They lie down hoping for sleep, but sleep does not come. Not because they are doing something wrong, but because the body is still holding on to effort, to stress, to fear. Relaxation in the Zen sense is not about doing less. It is about releasing more, not in theory, but in sensation. Imagine now that you are lying down in a quiet room. The lights are low. There is no sound but the soft rhythm of your own breath, and you begin gently to bring your attention to the body. Not all at once, but in parts, piece by piece, like a lantern moving through a dark room, illuminating what was hidden. You begin with the feet. You feel their weight against the surface beneath you, the bones, the skin, the soft pulse within. You don't analyze, you don't label, you just notice. And in the noticing, something shifts. The muscles begin to release, the nerves soften. You are not commanding the feet to relax, you are inviting them. Then the ankles, the calves, the knees. You move slowly, with reverence. Each part of the body is like a child that has been neglected, and now at last is being seen. There is no rush, no goal, only presence. The thighs, the hips, the lower back. So many people carry their life in these areas. The burdens of movement, of survival,
of emotion. You bring your attention there, not to fix anything but to witness, to allow, to hold space. And as you do, the breath changes, it deepens, it slows, not because you are controlling it, but because you are no longer resisting. You continue. The stomach, the chest, the shoulders, each place holds its own story. Tightness here, numbness there. You don't try to understand. You don't need to. The body does not need explanation. It needs compassion. The arms, the hands, the fingers, often overlooked. These parts of us that do so much. Hold, write, touch, carry. You feel their fatigue, and you offer rest. Then the neck, the jaw, the face. You may not realize how much tension is held here, even in sleep. The furrowed brow, the clenched teeth, the eyes that strain to see. You soften it all. You allow gravity to take over. And finally, the scalp, the crown of the head, the place where thought begins, where identity clings. You release, and in that release, you feel it. The body is no longer something you inhabit with resistance. It is a space of peace. This practice, known in many traditions as body scanning, but approached in Zen with simplicity and stillness, is not just a technique. It is a remembrance, a return to the truth that your body is not a problem to solve. It is a presence to meet. As you move through this inner landscape, you begin to notice how much you were carrying, not just physically, but energetically. The stress that had no voice, the fatigue you ignored, the subtle contractions that shaped your every movement. And with each breath, with each wave of attention, those burdens begin to dissolve, not because you push them away, but because you finally stop resisting them. Zen does not ask you to escape the body to find peace. It asks you to enter the body fully, to meet each sensation, each muscle, each breath, with awareness. And in that awareness, the body responds. It begins to trust again. It begins to open. The nervous system, always on high alert, receives the message. It is safe now. And with that safety, sleep comes naturally, without effort, without force, because nothing is being held anymore. There is no struggle, no clinging, just presence. This is not hypnosis. It is not tricking the mind. It is truth. And truth, when met with gentleness, becomes rest. You may think this is subtle, that it's not enough, that something more is needed, a louder method, a more advanced practice. But the body does not need noise. It needs permission. Permission to let go. Permission to stop. Permission to simply be. And so, each night, as you lie down, you can offer this gift to yourself, not as a routine, not as another task, but as a gesture of love. Start with the feet and end with the breath. Let every part of your body know you are allowed to rest. The world may demand performance, but the body asks for presence. And when you give it that presence, not once, but regularly, it remembers how to soften. It remembers how to trust. It remembers how to sleep. And so do you. Because deep rest is not something you earn, it is something you return to, by letting go, by letting be, and by remembering, again and again, that the body is not a burden. It is your home, and it is ready, always, to receive your presence. There are places that breathe peace. You step into them, and the air feels different, not because of scent or sound, but because of absence. The absence of clutter, the absence of noise, the absence of demand. In those places, something in you exhales, not physically, but spiritually. You remember what it feels like to be at ease. The Zen masters understood this deeply, that the space around you is not separate from the space within you, that your room is an extension of your mind, that your environment speaks to your nervous system, even in silence, especially in silence. This is why the Zen temple is not ornate. It is not loud. It is not filled with objects to impress or distract. It is simple, bare, spacious. The walls hold more emptiness than decoration. The light is soft. The colors are muted. Every element is intentional. Nothing extra, nothing wasted. And in that restraint, there is dignity, not the kind of dignity that demands attention, but the kind that invites stillness. When you look around the room you sleep in, what do you see? Is it a refuge, or is it an extension of the day's noise? Are the surfaces clean, or are they layered with objects that whisper reminders of tasks left undone? Are the lights harsh, fluorescent, unkind, or are they gentle, warm, inviting? These questions are not aesthetic, they are energetic, because the space where you rest does not just hold your body, it holds your nervous system, it holds your emotions, it holds your dreams, and if that space is chaotic, your mind absorbs that chaos, consciously or not. Zen invites you to simplify, not as a trend, not for minimalism's sake, but for clarity, for presence, because every object in your space has a voice, and too many voices create noise. Look at your bedside table. Is it a landing place for whatever has no home, or is it a sacred surface, holding only what soothes? A book, a lamp, a small reminder of beauty. Look at the walls. Are they covered in stimulation, or are they spacious, allowing the eyes to rest? Look at the colors. Are they sharp, saturated, filled with energy, or are they soft, grounding, quiet? Zen does not demand perfection. It does not ask you to live like a monk, but it does ask this: does your space reflect the peace you are seeking? If the answer is no, change begins, not with renovation, but with attention. Begin by removing what you do not need, not with force, not with guilt, but with care. Hold each object and ask, does this bring me stillness? If it doesn't, let it go. Then look again. Let there be space. Let the silence extend beyond your thoughts, into your surroundings. This silence is not emptiness, it is fullness, of breath, of being, of sacredness. Next comes light. Most people live under harsh illumination, overhead lights that glare, screens that burn into the eyes, light that does not respect the natural rhythm of the body. But the body, like the sun, was meant to dim with the evening. It was meant to soften, to move toward shadow. This is why Zen rooms often live in penumbra, the in-between light, not darkness, not brightness, but dusk, a golden softness that signals to the body it is time to return inward. When you prepare your space for rest, ask yourself, is this light kind? Does it invite me to soften? A single candle can do more for the soul than 1,000 LEDs, not because of what it shows, but because of what it hides, the unnecessary, the distracting, the loud. In this light, your breath slows, your muscles release, your mind surrenders its grip, and then there is order, not the sterile order of control, but the natural order of attention, a place for each thing, and each thing in its place. The bed made with care, not for guests, but for yourself. The blanket folded, not out of routine, but as a gesture of respect. The floor swept, not out of duty, but as a way to prepare the ground for sleep. In Zen, sweeping is not a chore, it is a meditation, a clearing not just of dust, but of thought. So too with your room. Every act of tidying is an act of clarity. Every decision to put something in its place is a decision to return to presence. This order is not rigidity, it is fluid, it adapts, but it speaks to the nervous system in a single language: safety. And safety is what allows the body to sleep. You do not need a perfect home. You do not need to buy anything. You only need to ask, does my space offer peace, or does it echo the very chaos I am trying to escape? And if it echoes chaos, gently change it, one object at a time, one light at a time, one gesture at a time. You are not decorating, you are sanctifying, because the space where you lie down is not just a room, it is a continuation of your body. It is the external nervous system, and when it is still, you become still. This is why monks bow before entering their sleeping quarters. This is why they walk with care, place things with care, rest with care. It is not performance, it is reverence, and reverence leads to rest. So tonight, before you sleep, look around. Do not criticize, do not judge, simply see what can be removed, what can be softened, what can be honored. And as you make these changes, however small, you will feel it. The space begins to hold you, not like a room, but like a womb, safe, quiet, whole. And in that space, sleep is no longer a goal, it is a return to stillness, to simplicity, to self. There is a moment at the end of the day When the body begins to speak a different language, it doesn't shout like it does under stress. It doesn't whisper like it does in distraction. It simply slows. If we're quiet enough, we can feel it, a signal, an invitation, the beginning of a descent from the outer world to the inner one. But so often, we ignore this invitation. We rush through it. We drown it in light, noise, stimulation, and so, the night, which should be sacred, becomes chaotic. Zen invites us to honor this descent, not with rules, but with rhythm, not with effort, but with attention. At the heart of this invitation is ritual. In the West, ritual is often misunderstood. It is seen as religious, ceremonial, formal. But in Zen, ritual is life. It is not something added to existence. It is how we exist, with intention, with presence, with grace. And perhaps no ritual is more emblematic of Zen than the making of tea. A cup of tea is not just a drink. It is a moment, a world, a ceremony of stillness. The water is boiled slowly, not rushed. The steam rises like breath from the earth. The leaves are chosen carefully, respectfully. The cup is placed, not thoughtlessly, but with care. The hand moves, and the body follows, not in performance, but in presence. And in this ritual the mind settles. Why? Because the ritual gives form to silence. It anchors the body in movement, but frees the mind from urgency. There is no goal in making tea. There is no prize. And so, the doing becomes its own reward. You stand, you pour, you wait, and in that waiting, the world returns to its original pace, slow, cyclical, grounded. This is not about the tea. It's not even about the taste. It's about the gesture, the way it calls the body back to itself, the way it tells the nervous system, now we are safe, now we are home, now we begin the descent. Des Celetaso Nocturna. The phrase itself feels like a long exhale, and that's what it is, a process of undoing, of softening the edges, of loosening the grip of the day. In Zen, the evening is not just the end of something, it is the entrance to something deeper, a return to the internal, a bow to the dark. Darkness is not feared in Zen, it is welcomed. It is where clarity begins. The bright light of the intellect dims, and the subtle light of awareness begins to glow. And so, as the sun goes down, the practice begins, not dramatic, not elaborate, just a series of quiet gestures, repeated with care. You dim the lights, you put the phone away, you change your clothes, not as routine, but as transition, from outer to inner, from active to receptive. You may light a candle, not for decoration, but for warmth. You may write a few lines in a notebook, not for memory, but for release. You may sit for a few minutes in silence, and then perhaps you make tea. And in these gestures, something shifts. The mind, which was pacing, begins to walk. The breath, which was shallow, begins to deepen. The body, which was alert, begins to trust again. This is not sleep yet, but it is the path to sleep, because the body does not fall asleep like a switch turning off. It falls asleep like a tide retreating slowly, rhythmically, organically. And ritual is the moon that guides that tide. Each gesture becomes a message to the subconscious. It is okay to stop. You are allowed to let go. There is nothing left to prove. The day is done. Come home now. And the tea, still warm between your hands, becomes not just a beverage, but a companion in your return to stillness. You may hold it, breathe in its steam, watch the way the light dances across the surface. You do not need to think, you do not need to analyze, just be. This just being is the heart of Zen. It is not passive, it is not vague, it is alive, precise, full. And when you practice it, night after night, the body remembers. It begins to associate these gestures with safety, with permission, with peace, and eventually, sleep follows, not as escape, but as surrender. This surrender cannot be forced. You cannot make yourself sleep by trying harder. but you can prepare the path, and that path is ritual, not just once, not just occasionally, but daily, because repetition creates rhythm, and rhythm creates trust. The body learns. When the tea is made, when the lights dim, when the breath slows, we are nearing rest, and so, the resistance fades. This is why monks live with structure, not for control, but for softness. Structure frees the mind from constant decision. It says, you are safe, follow the rhythm, and in that rhythm, there is space, space to feel, space to rest, space to return. You don't need to live like a monk, but you can borrow this wisdom. Choose your own ritual. It doesn't have to be tea. It could be washing your face, slowly, lovingly. It could be placing your phone on a shelf and lighting incense. It could be brushing your hair with presence, or reading a page of poetry, or sitting by a window with the lights off, watching the shadows. Whatever it is, make it yours. Let it be simple. Let it be real, and above all, let it be repeated, because the repetition is the language the body understands, and the body, once it understands, begins to cooperate. It stops bracing, it stops resisting, it stops defending, and at rest. This is not magic, but it is sacred, because in these rituals, small, gentle, silent, you are saying to yourself what the world never says. You don't have to do more, you don't have to hurry, you don't have to achieve. You only have to be, and being is enough. Tonight, as the day comes to a close, listen, not to the noise of your thoughts, but to the quiet language of the body. It will tell you when it's ready to begin the descent, and when it does, honor it, with a gesture, with a ritual, with a cup of tea, and with always presence, because in the end, it is not what you do before sleep that matters, it is how you do it, and when it is done with love, sleep comes on its own. Movement has become a forgotten language. In the modern world, the body moves quickly, constantly, but not consciously. We walk not to feel the earth, but to arrive faster. We stand not to ground ourselves, but to wait for something else. And we sit not to rest, but to scroll, to consume, to escape. The body moves, but the mind is elsewhere, and yet the body was never meant to be separate from the soul. The body is not simply a vehicle, it is the voice of presence. Every step is a word, every shift is a sentence, every motion carries meaning. If we pay attention, Zen teaches that stillness is not limited to immobility. True stillness can exist even in movement. It can be felt while walking, while standing, even while turning the head to look at the sky. This is not paradox, it is awareness. And so at the close of the day, when the light begins to soften, and the noise begins to fade, Zen invites us to walk, not to exercise, not to arrive anywhere, but to return to the body, to return to the ground, to return to ourselves. This practice has a name. Kin. Walking meditation. It is deceptively simple. You stand, you breathe, you take a single step, and in that step, everything is revealed. You feel the foot lift, you feel it hover, you feel it land, you feel the weight shift, and you do it again. There is no hurry, there is no destination. The step is not the means to an end, it is the end itself. This kind of movement does not activate the sympathetic nervous system, the system of urgency and survival. It activates something older, deeper. It soothes, it slows, it reminds the body that it is. And for many people who find it hard to sit still, who find their mind racing the moment they close their eyes, this is the doorway, because movement, when done with attention, becomes meditation. You are not fighting the body's need to move, you are honoring it. You are moving with awareness. Each step is a breath, each step is a prayer, each step is a return to now. You can practice kin in a hallway, a garden, a room. You don't need space, you need attention. You begin with standing, just standing, feeling the weight in your feet, feeling the contact with the floor, feeling the spine lengthen gently, as if pulled by an invisible thread, and you breathe, not to control, but to listen. Then you step, slowly. The foot lifts, the body shifts, the other foot follows. Your hands may rest gently in front of you, or behind you, or by your sides. What matters is not posture, but presence. You walk like someone who has nowhere to be, like someone who has already arrived, because you have. You are here and here is enough. This movement becomes a bridge, a transition from doing to being, from stimulation to surrender. You do not need to think your way into rest. You can walk your way there. Each step becomes a release of thought, of tension, of resistance, and gradually, the chatter of the mind softens, because it has nothing to push against. You are not fighting it. You are not ignoring it. You are simply walking. The breath deepens, the heart slows, and you begin to feel the world again, not as an idea, but as sensation. The air on your skin, the quiet sound of your foot touching the ground, the texture of the floor beneath you. This is reality, stripped of distraction, full of presence, and the body so often pushed and ignored, begins to respond. It begins to open. It begins to let go. This is not a technique. It is a remembering that the body is not against you. It is with you, always, and when you meet it, step by step, breath by breath, it trusts you again, and in that trust, rest becomes possible, sleep becomes natural, because the body no longer thinks it needs to protect you. It sees that you are here, that you are listening, that you are safe. This practice, done in the dimness of evening, becomes sacred. You are not trying to escape the day. You are honoring its ending. You are preparing the temple for sleep, not by force, but by rhythm. The step, the breath, the stillness inside the movement. This rhythm becomes your lullaby. You may walk for 5 minutes, or 10, or until the body says, enough. And when it does, you stop, not as an end, but as a landing. A place from which you can now lie down, not from chaos, but from calm. Your heart still, your breath soft, your body ready, and your mind no longer fighting the descent, because it has already begun to fall into peace, into quiet, into home. Zen does not separate walking from meditation. It does not separate movement from awareness. In Zen, the way you walk is the way you live, with presence, with reverence, with grace. So tonight, before you lie down, take a few steps, not as a habit, but as a ritual, a sacred return. Let the floor hold you, let the body guide you, let the breath lead you, and in each step, feel this truth. You are not lost, you are not late, you are not broken, you are walking home. There is something profoundly intimate about touching your own body with presence, not to fix it, not to judge it, but simply to be with it, with the skin, with the warmth, with the tiredness, with the tension, with everything.
We live in a culture of distance, even from ourselves. The body becomes a task to manage, a form to critique, a machine to push or sedate, but not a friend, not a being with its own rhythm, memory, need for affection. And yet beneath the surface of every cell, the body longs to be seen, not with the eyes but with care, with reverence, with the kind of attention we often reserve for others but forget to give ourselves. Zen teaches us that nothing is too small to be sacred, that the ordinary gesture, when done with full awareness, becomes holy. And this includes the most overlooked of gestures, the way we touch ourselves, the face we wash, the hand we place over the heart, the balm we apply to aching joints, the way we dry ourselves after a shower, or apply oil to the skin. These are not chores, they are invitations, opportunities to say silently, gently, I am here, I am listening. When you practice self-care with awareness, you are not performing, you are not conforming, you are remembering that the body is not an object. It is a field of experience, a landscape of breath and sensation, and every time you touch it with intention, You soften something within you. Consider the moment before sleep. You have dimmed the lights. You have perhaps walked slowly or prepared a warm drink. The mind is beginning to quiet, and now the body asks to be acknowledged, not rushed, not dismissed, but truly met. You sit or stand or lie down. You place your hands on your body, perhaps on your legs, your arms, your chest. You breathe, and as you breathe, you feel. Not think, feel. Is there tension? Is there warmth? Is there resistance? No need to change it. No need to label it. Just meet it. Just hold space. You may apply a soothing oil, or gently press your hands over your belly, noticing the movement of your breath. You may massage your neck, not mechanically, but slowly, with attention, noticing what shifts, what relaxes, what resists. You may place one hand on your forehead, the other on your heart, and feel the pulsing rhythm beneath both palms. You are not trying to do anything. You are being with what is. And this listening through touch, tells the body you are not alone. The mind listens through thought. The heart listens through feeling. But the body listens through touch. And when it feels safe, it responds. It lets go. The nervous system, attuned to the language of contact, begins to release its grip. Because what we long for, more than rest itself, is the permission to rest. And that permission is given not in words but in presence. In the way we touch, in the way we move slowly enough to feel our own skin. You do not need elaborate rituals. You do not need expensive products. You need attention and tenderness. That is enough. You brush your teeth slowly. You wash your face, not scrubbing, but caressing. You wrap yourself in a blanket, not to disappear, but to embrace. Every gesture becomes a moment of connection. You are not fixing the body. You are honoring it. This honoring changes everything. It reorients your relationship with sleep, because now, sleep is not something you fall into out of exhaustion. It is something you enter with grace, like crossing a threshold, like bowing before entering a sacred space, because that is what the night is. It is not a gap in your day. It is a dimension of healing, and the body knows how to go there, if you let it. But it cannot enter carrying the burden of disregard. It cannot enter if it has not been seen. So you see it, through presence, through touch, through the quiet care of attention, and you begin to feel something shift, not just in the muscles, but in the relationship between you and your own form. You stop being at war with your body. You stop pushing it. You stop apologizing for it. You begin instead to inhabit it, to feel its weight as grounding, to feel its tiredness not as a failure but as a message, to feel its needs not as obstacles but as wisdom. And in this relationship, this softened, sacred intimacy, rest is no longer effort. It becomes surrender. You are not sedating the body. You are accompanying it into softness, into sleep, into peace. There may be nights when you forget, nights when you rush, nights when you treat the body like a machine. That's okay. Each night is a chance to remember again, to return, not through guilt, but through grace. Begin small. A single hand placed over the heart, a few seconds spent massaging your hands, a warm cloth over your face, held with care, and slowly, the body will learn. You are here. You are safe, you are kind, and in that kindness everything changes. Zen is not about detachment from the body, it is about intimacy with it. And this intimacy begins with the simplest of gestures, a breath, a touch, a moment. And in that moment, nothing is missing. The mind wants to understand, it seeks answers, patterns, logic. It builds maps, frameworks, explanations. This is not wrong. It is part of our nature, but there is a deeper truth. The mind also seeks control, and in this quest for control, it becomes restless. It cannot stop turning things over. It cannot accept not knowing, and so it spins endlessly. You lie down to rest, and the mind begins replaying the day, anticipating tomorrow, analyzing what was said, what was not said, thought after thought, like links in a chain that tightens around you. Zen does not seek to argue with the mind. It does not offer answers in the usual sense. What it offers is interruption, a crack in the structure, a question that breaks the rhythm of thought, not with more thought, but with something deeper. This is the koan. A koan is not a riddle to be solved. It is not a puzzle to be conquered. It is an invitation to drop the search for answers and step into the mystery itself. What is the sound of one hand clapping? The question does not compute. The mind wants to grasp it. It looks for metaphors. It tries to reason, but nothing lands. That's the point. The koan is not there to be answered. It is there to be lived, to be carried, to be felt, like a stone in the pocket of your awareness, something you do not solve but return to, something that unravels not logic, but identity. Because what is the mind if not a set of assumptions, a collection of patterns? The koan enters like a grain of sand in that machinery. It grinds the gears. It interrupts the rhythm, and in that interruption space opens. The mind stops, not because it was forced to, but because it has no path forward. And in that pause, something new is possible. Silence, presence, freedom. Zen students have long been given koans, not to think about, but to live with. Show me your original face before your mother and father were born. What is Buddha? A dried shit stick. These are not metaphors. They are shockwaves, designed to shake the tree of concepts and let all the dead leaves fall. You may not understand a koan, but that's exactly the door it opens. It pushes you out of the domain of understanding and into the domain of experience. You lie awake, thoughts racing. You bring the koan into the room like a bell. What was your original face? The mind tries to respond. It cannot. It stalls. It falters. And in that faltering you feel the gap, the space between thoughts, the breath beneath the noise. And you rest there, not as someone trying to sleep, but as someone who has dropped the trying, who has dropped the self that tries, who has dropped the illusion of control. And what remains is being, just being. Not understanding, not fixing, not labeling, just this breath, this moment, this body. Zen is not against the mind. It respects its power, but it does not worship it, because the mind is not the master. It is the servant, and the koan reminds you of that. It reminds you that some truths are not meant to be captured. They are meant to be bowed to. In the presence of a koan, the ego has no tools. There is no argument, no interpretation that satisfies, only surrender. And in that surrender, a deeper intelligence awakens, not intellectual, but intuitive, somatic, present. When you hear a koan, something stirs, not in the head but in the heart. It's as if the question unlocks something ancient, something wordless, something holy. And that something cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. It is not passive. It is alive, like silence that vibrates, like stillness that moves. This is the kind of rest the koan invites. Not rest as escape, but rest as truth. You are not asked to agree. You are asked to stop the chase, to stop the analysis, to stop the narrative. And in that stopping, to return to the mystery that you are. There are nights when thought will not leave you alone, nights when the mind insists on being center stage. On those nights, you can meet it, not with resistance, but with a koan, not as a tool, but as a companion. Let it walk with you into sleep. Let the question stay unanswered. Let it echo, like a bell fading into darkness. Does a dog have Buddha nature? Moo. This is the famous response. Not yes, not no, just moo. It means nothing. It means everything. It breaks the binary. It drops the mind. And you, suddenly, are not the thinker anymore. You are the awareness that watches the thought. You are the stillness behind the storm. You are the space in which the koan lands. And in that space, sleep becomes natural, because nothing is left to solve. Nothing is left to prove. There is no end to the koan, just as there is no end to this moment. It is infinite, unfolding, alive. So take one with you tonight, not to solve, but to feel, to carry. Like a stone worn smooth in the hand, let it rest on your chest.
Let it sit on your pillow. Let it sing to you in the language of not knowing. And listen, not with the mind, with the whole of your being. The moment you stop fighting your thoughts, something unexpected happens. They lose their power, not because they disappear, but because your relationship with them changes. What once felt like an enemy becomes a cloud. What once tightened your chest, now simply passes by. This is the beginning of liberation. But the path to that liberation is not paved with force. It does not require you to dominate your mind or silence it by strength. It asks only for one thing: acceptance, radical acceptance, the willingness to sit with what is, not with resignation, but with openness, not because you like what you see, but because you no longer wish to be at war with it. This is one of the most difficult truths to understand, because from the moment we are born, we are conditioned to resist discomfort. We pull away from pain. We distract ourselves from anxiety. We suppress anger. We chase pleasure and push everything else out of sight. But Zen teaches us something different. It teaches that resistance is suffering, not pain, not sadness, not fear, but resistance to those things. That's where the true suffering lives. Imagine for a moment that you're lying in bed. The room is quiet, but your mind is not. A thought arises. I didn't do enough today. Another follows. Tomorrow will be even worse. You begin to spiral, and so you resist. You tell the mind to stop. You try to distract yourself. You tense your body. You force your breath, but it doesn't work. The thoughts return, stronger, louder, sharper. Because what we resist does not vanish. It roots itself deeper. It feeds on our aversion. Now imagine something else. You lie in bed. The thought arises. I didn't do enough today. But this time, you don't resist. You hear it. You let it be there. You say, without voice, without judgment, this is here. And something shifts. The thought doesn't vanish, but it doesn't trap you anymore. It is seen. It is allowed. It is accepted. And in that acceptance, it begins to move, like a wave that rises and falls, like wind that passes through a tree. You realize you don't have to do anything about the thought. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to push it away. You just have to stop fighting it. This is radical acceptance, not because it's dramatic, but because it goes against everything the conditioned mind has been taught. The mind says, fix this. Zen says, allow this. The mind says, run. Zen says, stay. Staying with what is, even when it's uncomfortable, is the essence of the practice. And the more you stay, the more you see. The pain is not the problem. The fear is not the enemy. The sadness is not the failure. It is the resistance to these things that builds the walls, that locks you in, that steals your sleep. When you let go of resistance, you don't collapse. You expand. You open. You breathe. You allow the full spectrum of experience to exist, without clinging, without push. And this changes everything. You begin to see that your thoughts are not facts. Your emotions are not emergencies. They are weather. They are movements. They are energy. And energy moves best when it is not confined. So you let it move. You feel the anxiety, and you stay. You feel the doubt, and you stay. You feel the tiredness, and you stay. You stay, not because you enjoy it, but because you know that the staying is healing. It is where the shift happens, where the body learns, I am safe, even in discomfort, where the heart learns, I can open, even in uncertainty, where the mind learns, I am not in control, and that's okay. This is not passive. It is the deepest kind of courage, to be still in the face of the storm, to allow the rain to fall, to allow the night to come, without flinching, without fleeing. And in that stillness, the storm begins to pass, not because you made it pass, but because you didn't interfere. Zen doesn't promise a life without storms. It promises that you can meet them differently. And when you do, they don't drown you anymore. They wash through you, and you remain. So when the next thought arises, whatever it is, pause. Notice the reflex to push it away. Then soften. Breathe. Say silently, this too belongs, this too is allowed, and let it pass. Like a bird flying across a wide sky. You are not the thought, you are the sky, and nothing that passes through the sky can harm it. It is untouched, vast, silent, whole. In that wholeness, Rest is possible, even with thoughts, even with pain, because you are no longer trying to get rid of anything. You are no longer waiting for a perfect inner state before you rest. You are simply resting now, with what is, because what is enough. There is a voice inside your mind that tells stories. It doesn't speak loudly. It doesn't pause to ask your permission. It simply runs, like a background program, always active, always narrating. You wake up and it begins. I didn't sleep well. Today is going to be hard. I should have said something yesterday. What if this doesn't work? The stories unfold, effortlessly, endlessly. You don't notice them at first, because they seem familiar. So familiar, in fact, that you mistake them for truth. You don't just hear the story, you become it. You identify with it, and in that identification, the story gains power. It shapes your emotions, it directs your attention, it defines your experience, not because the world changed, but because the narrative told you it did. Zen sees this clearly. It does not demonize the stories, it simply shows their nature: impermanent, conditioned, constructed, and because they are constructed, they can be seen, and because they can be seen, they can be released. But that released does not come through force. You do not fight the story. You do not argue with it. You do not replace it with a better one. You simply stop believing it. And in that moment, the story begins to lose its grip. It's like watching a play in a theater. When you're immersed in the drama, every word feels real. The tension, the heartbreak, the resolution, you feel it all. But the moment you step back and remember you're watching actors on a stage, something shifts. You're still present, but now, you see the story for what it is: a performance, not reality, a version of it. This is what happens when you begin to observe the mind's stories. You see the thought, "I'm not good enough," and you don't argue, you don't try to prove it wrong. You simply say, "That's a story," and in that moment, the energy shifts, because you've stepped out of the performance. You are no longer the actor, you are the awareness, watching it unfold. This shift is small, but it is everything. It is the difference between being lost and being free. The mind resists this. It wants to be the storyteller. It wants control, and more than anything, it wants identity. The story gives you a sense of self. I am the one who suffers. I am the one who was betrayed. I am the one who must prove myself. But in Zen, the self, built on narrative, is not the true self. It is a mask, a construct, and though it feels solid, it is made of thought, nothing more. When you sit in silence and simply watch the mind, you begin to notice something strange. The story keeps changing. One moment you are confident, the next, you are unsure. One day you are loved, the next, forgotten. The self shifts with the story, which means it was never fixed, never real. And once you see this, you begin to let go, not of your life, not of your memories, but of the attachment to the story, the idea that it defines you, that it controls you, that it is you. Zen does not ask you to erase the past. It asks you to stop carrying it like a weight. It asks you to stop repeating the same sentences to yourself every night before you sleep. It asks you to see the thought for what it is: a phrase, a sound, a cloud in the sky of your awareness. And it asks you to rest, not in the story, but in the silence behind it. This silence is not empty. It is spacious, alive, free. It does not need to explain itself. It does not need to prove anything. It simply is. And when you rest there, the stories lose their urgency. You still remember, but you no longer become the memory. You still feel, but you no longer cling to the emotion. You still think, but you no longer believe every thought. And this, quietly, begins to change your nights, because the cycle that keeps you awake is not just thought, it is identification. It is the belief that the thought means something about you, that it must be resolved before sleep, that it defines your worth. But what if it doesn't? What if the thought, "I'm behind in life," is just that, a thought? What if the narrative, "I always fail," is not prophecy, but conditioning? What if the voice that tells you, "You'll never be okay," is not truth, just noise? You don't need to silence it. You just need to see it, and seeing is the first freedom. Zen masters often teach students to sit and watch the mind, like someone watching a river flow. You don't jump in, you don't try to redirect the current. You sit on the bank, and you watch. The thought appears. I am overwhelmed. You watch. It passes. Another appears. I should have done more today. You watch. It passes. Eventually you begin to see the pattern. The same voices, the same themes, the same loops. And the moment you see the loop, you are no longer caught in it. You are the witness, the sky, not the storm. And from that place, something beautiful happens. Stillness, not silence from the absence of thought, but silence from the absence of belief. The mind keeps speaking, but you are free, free to rest, free to breathe, free to sleep, because sleep is not something you enter when the mind is quiet. It is something you return to when you no longer chase the noise. Let the stories be, let them pass, and return to what is always here beneath them. The breath, the body, the awareness that sees all things and clings to none. This is not forgetting. It is remembering. Remembering who you are without the stories. Not a name, not a role, not a narrative, but presence. Vast, open, unmoving, and in that presence, nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be solved. Everything simply is, and that is enough. The sky has no opinion about the clouds that pass through it. It does not hold on to the storm. It does not cling to the sunlight. It welcomes both, allows both, and remains unchanged by either. In this way the sky teaches us what the mind can become. Vast, spacious, free. But we have forgotten the sky within us. We have mistaken the clouds for the sky itself. We see a thought, anxious, urgent, painful, and believe that it defines who we are. We see a moment of darkness and assume that the entire sky has disappeared, and so we suffer, not because the thoughts arise, but because we forget they are passing, because we follow them as if they were truth, because we fight them as if they were permanent. Zen invites us to look again, to see the mind as sky, and thoughts as clouds, transient, shapeless, drifting, sometimes bright, sometimes heavy, but never fixed, never who we are. This is not a metaphor to be admired. It is a reality to be experienced. You sit, you breathe, you close your eyes, the thoughts begin, as they always do. This won't work. I'm tired. What if tomorrow is a mess? You feel them forming, like weather systems gathering on the horizon. You feel the familiar pull, the desire to follow, to analyze, to resist. But instead of engaging, you watch. You say to yourself, this is a cloud, a shape forming, a shadow passing. And as you watch, something shifts. The thought softens, the attachment loosens, and the vastness behind it becomes visible, like the blue behind a storm, like the silence behind a noise. You are not the thought, you are the space it arises in. This is the beginning of freedom. The mind does not stop. It was never meant to. Just as the sky never stops holding clouds, the mind never stops producing thoughts. But when you remember the sky, the clouds lose their weight. They become scenery. They become movement. They become nothing to fear. You may sit in meditation and find your mind busy. That's okay. That's expected. You are not failing. You are seeing. The point is not to stop thinking. The point is to stop believing every thought. To stop identifying with every movement in the sky. To rest in what holds it all. In the awareness that sees the clouds and says, this too can pass. And when it does, when it dissolves, you remain still, unmoved, like the sky. This practice becomes powerful at night, when the thoughts feel heavier, when the clouds feel thicker. You lie in bed, and the mind begins, I shouldn't have said that. What will happen if? What if I don't sleep? Each thought, a dark shape against the inner horizon. But now instead of spiraling, you observe, you say, this is weather, temporary, changing. You do not try to clear the sky. You trust that it clears itself, and it does, always, because that is its nature, to return to stillness when the wind subsides, to return to clarity when the clouds move on, and they always move on. You've seen this before. You've watched a storm cover the world, and then hours later, vanish, as if it were never there. The sky does not hold on to the storm. Why should you? You've seen joy arise in your mind, and then disappear. You've seen sadness, and then laughter minutes later. You've seen fear, then calm. So what changed? Not the sky, only the weather, only the thoughts, only the momentary shapes of energy passing through consciousness. This is not detachment. This is intimacy without identification. You are not stepping away from life. You are stepping into it more fully. You are meeting each cloud with open hands, not to capture it, not to hold it, just to witness and let it pass. Some clouds are large, old narratives, old fears. They take longer to move. That's okay. Let them take their time. Your job is not to rush the sky. Your job is to stay with it, to breathe beneath it, to remember that the sky is still there, even when you can't see it. It has never left, and it never will. This is the part we forget. We think, I feel anxious, so I must be anxious. I feel tired, so I must be broken. I feel fear, so I must be in danger. But feeling is not being. It is passing through, like a shadow crossing the grass. You can sit in that shadow, feel its chill, but no, it is not the ground. It is not you. It is a shape that moves, and when it moves, you remain clear, whole, unchanged. You begin to live differently. You stop chasing only sunny days. You welcome the entire weather of your life. Rain, fog, thunder, silence. You stop being afraid of the inner sky. You let it open, and you begin to rest there, even as thoughts continue, even as clouds come and go. Because rest is not the absence of thought, it is the absence of clinging, the absence of judgment, the absence of fear, and in that absence, peace arises, not because you created it, but because it was always there, hidden behind the noise, like the blue behind the clouds, like the stars behind the storm. The sky never left you, and now, you return to it. You lie in bed. You close your eyes. A thought appears. You say, this is a cloud. You return to your breath. You feel the body sink. The sky opens, and in that space, you fall, not into sleep, as escape, but into sleep, as return. Return to stillness, return to presence, return to the sky within. There comes a moment, after the questions have been asked, and the thoughts have been spun into exhaustion, when you begin to sense something deeper underneath it all. A silence that doesn't demand anything, that doesn't promise anything, that doesn't explain itself. It is simply there, not waiting, not hiding, just being. That silence is not a pause between events. It is the foundation upon which all things arise. Most of us are taught to value action, to do, to respond, to fix. We are shaped by a world that rewards movement, productivity, urgency, and yet, in the deepest parts of our experience, it is not action that changes us, it is presence, and presence is born, not from doing, but from stillness. Zen does not fear silence, it lives in it, not as absence, but as truth, a truth that can only be experienced when everything else has been let go. We often believe that rest is something to be earned, that we must finish the list, silence the mind, resolve the emotion, only then can we relax. But the deeper teaching is this: true rest begins when you realize there is nothing more to do, not because everything is done, but because you are no longer at war with this moment. You are no longer trying to improve it, explain it, escape it. You are simply here, and here now is enough. This is the Zen of non-action, not passivity, not apathy, but alert stillness, a quiet that sees everything clearly and moves only when the movement is natural, a stillness that is not frozen, but alive. This stillness cannot be manufactured. It cannot be forced. You cannot sit and demand silence. You cannot grasp peace like a tool. You can only stop interfering with it. And when you stop, truly stop, it begins to emerge, like a lake that clears when the wind settles, like a candle that glows brighter when no one exhales nearby. You sit, you breathe, you stop trying to control the breath. You stop trying to change your thoughts. You stop trying to feel a certain way. You stop trying altogether, and something beautiful begins to rise from that stop. The mind relaxes. The breath softens. The nervous system, always scanning, always vigilant, begins to realize there is no threat here. There is nothing to defend, and in that recognition, it begins to release, like a child unclenching a fist in sleep. You realize that your body was never the enemy, that your thoughts were never obstacles, that your feelings were never mistakes. They were just weather, just movement. And now that you are no longer trying to control the weather, you begin to feel the ground beneath it, the earth of your being, the foundation that never moved, even when the storm howled. This is the gift of stillness, not that it changes your life, but that it shows you what was never changing. You, not the you made of stories, not the you made of rules, but the silent presence that has always been watching, the one who saw the childhood fear, the one who saw the heartbreak, the one who heard every story the mind ever told, and remained untouched, the witness, the awareness, the true self. And this self does not speak in words, it speaks in stillness, it responds in silence, it teaches by being. There is a Zen story of a student who asks the master, "What is the ultimate teaching?" The master says nothing. He simply looks at the student, and in that silence, the student sees it. The mind rebels against this. It wants content. It wants sound. It wants answers, but the deepest answers come in the absence of sound, in the space between thoughts, in the stillness between doing, because that stillness is not empty, it is full of what you truly are, not a thought, not a goal, not a becoming, but a being. So when the thoughts rise, let them rise. When they pass, let them pass, and in between, rest, not on purpose, not with effort. Just as a cloud rests in the sky, just as a leaf rests on the surface of still water. Nothing to prove, nothing to earn, nothing to fix. You are not broken, you are tired, and silence is the bed where your tiredness can finally lie down. Let the silence hold you. Let it answer the questions you no longer need to ask. Let it teach you the language of presence, where nothing is added, where nothing is taken away, where everything, even the thoughts, even the chaos, is allowed, and still there is peace, because peace does not require perfect conditions, it only requires your absence from struggle, and your presence in stillness. You are not responsible for every storm in your mind. You are not in control of the weather, but you can sit with it. You can watch it.
You can rest in the space that holds it. And that space, that silence is who you are. Even now, even here, especially here. There is no technique more powerful than this. There is no mantra greater than silence. There is no response wiser than stillness. So tonight, when the mind begins to spin, remember, you do not need to follow it. You do not need to fix it. You do not need to do anything. Just stop. Just breathe. Just be. And let the silence rise. Let it answer every question. Let it heal every wound. Not with effort, but with its presence. The presence that has always been with you. Waiting, not for you to change, but for you to return to the truth that you are already whole, already home, already held in the arms of a silence that says nothing, and yet somehow says everything. The way you lie down at the end of the day reveals more than you might expect. It tells the truth about how you relate to rest, to stillness, to yourself. For many, the body arrives in bed, but the mind keeps walking. The lights may be off, the room quiet, but inside there is movement. Restless, relentless, loud. Zen invites us to see this moment differently, to treat the act of debtor, of lying down, not as a mechanical end to the day, but as the beginning of a different state of awareness, one that doesn't just lead to sleep, but to reconnect soul, to truth, to home. Because rest is not the opposite of doing. Rest is a form of presence, and presence begins with intention. So the question becomes, how do you lie down? Not just where, not just when, but how, with what energy, with what posture of spirit. In Zen, even the smallest gesture carries weight. How you close a door, how you fold your robe, how you place your cushion. These are not acts of utility. They are acts of respect. And so too with the way you lay your body down to sleep. You are not collapsing. You are returning. You are not escaping. You are opening. You are not ending the day. You are entering the night. Fully awake in your surrender. It begins perhaps even before your head touches the pillow. It begins with the breath, with the awareness that the day is done. Not perfect, not controlled, but complete. You are not carrying the hours with you. You are placing them down, one by one, like stones removed from a satchel. The conversations, the decisions, the mistakes, the accomplishments, you place them beside you, not as denial, but as offering. You say, this too belongs, and then you return to the body, to the sensation of the blanket, to the rhythm of breath, to the weight of your limbs against the earth. You are not trying to sleep. You are entering a state that welcomes it, like pouring water into a bowl that was already waiting to receive. In Zen, posture matters, not for aesthetics, but for energy. When monks lie down, they do so with intention. They turn to the right side. They stack the hands. They align the spine, not because it is better, but because it is mindful, because it turns the body into a shape of respect. Respect for the moment, for the body, for the silence that is coming. You can do this too, however your body prefers to rest. Do it slowly. Do it with breath, with care, with awareness of the sacredness of what you are doing. You are returning to the source, not of the day, but of being. Each breath becomes slower, each movement becomes softer, and the body begins to understand. We are safe now. We are no longer being chased, no longer being measured. We can release the grip, and when the body receives that message, it responds. The muscles no longer hold tension in secret. The jaw unhooks, the shoulders drop, the hands relax, the belly softens, and the breath, that ancient river, begins to widen. You do not need to tell the breath what to do. You only need to stop interrupting it, to stop layering it with expectations, stories, resistance. It knows the way, just as the seed knows how to grow, just as the child knows how to sleep. That wisdom is still in you, buried perhaps, but never lost. Zen does not give you new tools. It reminds you of what is already here, your body, your breath, your present, and the wisdom of knowing how to return to stillness. So let the ritual of lying down be slow. Let it be a conversation, not I must sleep now, but I am ready to be held, held by the night, by the silence, by the stillness inside you. This is not about doing everything perfectly. It is about doing everything with heart, about touching the moment with your attention. You do not need incense or chants. You need honesty, the honesty to meet yourself here, exactly as you are, tired or agitated, grateful or numb. You meet what is, and you do not push it away. You do not say, I'll rest when I feel peaceful. You say, I will rest now. Even in this, because peace does not come before rest, it comes through it, through the softening, through the stopping, through the slow and sacred way. The body begins to disappear into the night, not as escape, but as communion. And when you lie down like this, something ancient awakens, something beyond thought, beyond language, a trust that has no name, a knowing that this stillness is not empty, it is home. You do not fall asleep, you fall into sleep, as if sleep were the arms of the earth, cradling you, as if sleep were a temple. You enter barefoot,
breath by breath, you walk toward it slowly. You offer everything you carried, and you lie down, not to forget, but to remember that even in stillness, you are alive. Even in silence, you are whole. Even in sleep, you are held. In every tradition, there are stories told in the dark, not to distract from sleep, but to prepare the soul for it. Not to explain, but to dissolve the tension of knowing. Stories that don't resolve in neat conclusions, but rather dissolve boundaries between question and answer, between self and other, between waking and dreaming. Zen stories are like that. They are short, simple, mysterious. At first they seem puzzling, sometimes even meaningless. But if you let them pass through you, without resistance, without trying to grasp or decode, they do something remarkable. They quiet the mind not by satisfying it, but by disarming it. You lie in bed, your body is soft, the room is dark, you are breathing, and the story begins, like a small bell. Once, a monk asked his master, "How can I find peace?" The master replied, "Have you finished your rice?" "Yes." The monk said, "Then wash your bowl." That was all. No long sermon, no elaborate metaphor, just one gesture, one act. Wash your bowl. And the monk understood. What did he understand? Perhaps that peace is not elsewhere, not later, not in understanding, but in doing what is before you, with full presence, with clarity, with reverence. You feel this as you lie down, that even the act of resting, if done with full presence, becomes a path, not a delay, not a duty, but the answer itself. Another story. A student comes to the master and asks, "What is the way?" The master answers, "Everyday life is the way." The student frowns, "But how do I practice it?" The master replies, "If you try to practice it, you are already turning away." The student is confused, "But if I don't practice, how will I know it?" The master says, "The way is not about knowing, it is about being." You let the story enter, and something shifts inside you, not as an idea, but as a loosening. You no longer need to perform peace, you simply rest into it, because it was never separate from you. It was just buried beneath the effort to be something more. This is what these stories do. They subtract, they don't fill the mind, they empty it. Like someone pouring water from a too full cup. You don't need to understand, you only need to receive, and allow yourself to be quieted, not by force, but by wonder. Another story. Two monks are arguing about a flag. "It is the flag that moves," says one. "No," says the other. "It is the wind that moves." A third monk passes by and says, "It is neither the flag nor the wind. It is your mind that moves." You pause, the thought dissolves. Your mind, always trying to grasp, sees itself in the story, always moving, always labeling. But here, now, you lie still, the room is quiet, the air is soft. You are not the flag, you are not the wind, you are the sky that holds both. And again, there is nothing to solve, only to return to the breath, and to rest. One more story. A master sits before his student and holds up a single flower. He says nothing. The student says nothing, only smiles. In that smile, the transmission is complete. Nothing was said, everything was shared. You feel it. This is the language beyond words, the wisdom beneath thought. And now, you too are holding the flower of the moment. No need to name it, no need to grasp it, just to see, just to breathe, just to lie here, and let the story carry you, not toward a conclusion, but toward a soft surrender. Zen stories are not meant to be explained before sleep. They are meant to open a door into the unknown, where sleep is not escape, but return to the quiet before the thought, to the clarity before the need to explain, to the stillness that doesn't ask anything from you, except that you rest into it. So tonight, you lie here, with a story like a warm stone in your hand. You don't squeeze it, you don't drop it, you simply hold it. Feel its weight, its silence, and in that silence, the mind slows, the breath deepens, and you let go of the question, of the self, of the day, not because you finished it, but because it is done, like the rice, like the bowl, like the breath that rises and falls, without your help, without your control. Sleep does not need you to earn it, only to trust it. And so you do. You turn, you breathe, you rest, and let the story do what it was always meant to do. Not to teach, but to touch, and remind you. You have always known the way, even before you asked, even now. As your body softens, even now. As the last thought fades, even now. As silence begins, there is a place you can go that exists outside due tempo. It is not made of memory. It is not shaped by imagination. It is built instead by attention, by presence, by the willingness to stop everything and simply be. This place is not on any map. You cannot drive to it. You cannot find it in photos or descriptions. And yet, you have been there before, perhaps as a child, perhaps in a dream, perhaps in the rare moments of deep silence between breaths. In Zen, this place is often expressed not as a destination, but as a landscape of being, a garden, not a garden with colors and perfumes and blooming chaos, but a garden of stone and sand, of space, of precision, of emptiness, so full it feels like presence itself. Tonight, you will walk there, not with your feet, but with your awareness, not with effort, but with breath. You are lying in bed, the room is quiet, the body is softening, the breath is slow, and something begins to open. Not outside, but within. You begin to see the path. It is narrow, simple, worn by many footsteps, but perfectly clean. Each stone beneath your foot is smooth, cool, unmoving. You are barefoot. You are safe. You are alone. Not in loneliness, but in freedom. The path curves gently. No sharp turns, no rush, just a gentle leading. Like water guiding a leaf. Ahead, you see it, the garden, a rectangle of white sand, raked in long, perfect lines. The lines do not end, they move around stones. Small islands of stillness. Each stone is different, some tall, some flat, some smooth like river pebbles, some jagged, proud. None are out of place, none ask for attention, they are simply there. You step into the space, and silence greets you. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence, a silence that listens, that receives. You walk slowly, no words, no thoughts to chase, only the sound of breath, only the soft brushing of your movement against the air. In the corner of the garden, a tree stands. Its trunk is twisted, but strong. Its leaves are still, no wind, no disturbance, just life. Held in pause, you sit on a low wooden bench. It is worn by time, but firm. The wood is warm from the sun, a sun that you don't see but feel. And you rest. You do not meditate. You do not observe. You simply are. The garden holds you, not physically, but energeticamente. It holds your worries without needing to fix them. It holds your thoughts without needing to silence them. It holds your presence without needing to change it. Time stops here. There is no past. There is no future. Only this, only now. You look down at your hands. They are relaxed. They are empty. And yet, you feel as if you are holding something. A calm, a weightless knowing. It is not a thought. It is not a memory. It is something deeper, like water beneath the sand, always there, now felt. And as you sit, something within begins to let go. Maybe the shoulders, maybe the jaw, maybe the space behind your eyes. Whatever was still holding on, softens, not because you made it, but because this place has no need for holding. It is a place of rest, not the rest of exhaustion, but the rest of arrival. There is no path left to walk. You are here. You look again at the garden. The lines in the sand ripple like thought, but do not disturb. The stones do not speak, yet you feel understood. The sky, endless and blank, is not above you. It is inside you. And sleep is not far. It is not a destination now. It is the next ripple, the next breath, the next unfolding. You lie down in the garden, not on the ground, but into it. The earth receives you. You are not an intruder. You are part of it, one of the stones, one of the lines, one with the space itself. You feel your body disappear, not in fear, but in peace. You are no longer a person trying to sleep. You are no longer a seeker. You are part of this stillness, of this sand, of this sky, and even if thoughts arise, they move gently, like the rake across the garden. No damage, only movement, only shape, only presence. Nothing interrupts this. Nothing is wrong here. The garden does not reject anything. It welcomes, it includes, it allows. And now you remember. This was never just a visualization. This was a return to a place in you that never needed fixing, to a space that has always been whole. The body lies in bed. The breath is slow, but your awareness, it lies in the garden, and it will stay there. Even as sleep comes, even as dreams begin, even as the world dissolves, because the garden is not outside, it is not imaginary, it is the expression of your original stillness, your true nature. The mind, like sand, may shift. The thoughts, like footsteps, may come and go, but the ground beneath, that quiet presence, remains untouched. So tonight, rest there. No need to return. You are already here. No need to build it. You are already. No need to understand it. Only to breathe. Only to let go. Only to sleep. Not away from life, but into it. Like a leaf, returning to the tree. Like a stone, resting where it always belonged. Like a breath, that finally stops being chased. There are few things in life that become more elusive, the more we chase them. Sleep is one of them. The harder you try to sleep, the further it seems to move away, like mist, like a reflection on water. The moment you reach for it with tension, it slips through your fingers. You lie in bed, you close your eyes, and the mind begins its habitual loop. Why am I not asleep yet? I have to wake up early. What if I don't rest? I need to sleep. Now, each thought is a tightening, each worry a new thread pulling you away from the very state you're longing to enter. But Zen whispers a different truth, one that is older than anxiety, older than planning, older than the restless mind. Sleep does not come when summoned, it comes when allowed, just as the heart beats, without your command, just as the breath moves, without your effort. Sleep, too, is part of the body's deep intelligence, and when we stop interfering, when we stop insisting, it returns. You are not meant to force the body into silence. You are meant to trust that it knows the way. But trust is not passive. It is active surrender. It is the willingness to stop doing and let being take over. This is why Zen teaches the art of non-doing. The idea that rest comes not when the checklist is complete, not when the thoughts are gone, but when the one who is trying so hard finally lets go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means softening the grip. It means releasing the idea that sleep is something you must earn, that rest is a reward for performance, that stillness is a prize at the end of exhaustion. Sleep is not a transaction, it is a return to what was never absent, a return to the rhythm that has carried you since the beginning, before you had words, before you had plans, before you had the thought that you needed to control everything. So now, in this quiet moment, ask yourself, can I let the night hold me? Can I release the pressure to rest, and simply rest? Can I lie here without fixing anything, proving anything, solving anything? What if sleep is not the goal? What if sleep is the side effect of surrender? You feel your body, the weight of it, the shape of it, noticing how the back touches the bed, how the ribs move with the breath, how the face begins to soften, how the eyes sink behind their closed lids. You are not doing this, it is happening. You are not asleep yet, and that is okay. There is no race. The night is not waiting for you to perform. It is simply here, offering itself, in darkness, in silence, in stillness. Let it wash over you, not like a wave of sleep, but like a tide of gentleness, washing away the need to try. You may feel thoughts still moving. That's okay. You may feel your body still holding on in places. That's okay too. You are not here to eliminate anything. You are here to stop pushing. You are here to stop chasing, because the one who is chasing sleep is the one preventing it. The more you insist, the more the body contracts. The more you force, the more the mind resists. But the moment you say, "Let it be," something changes. A door opens, and you fall. Not downward, not into nothingness, but inward, into warmth, into quiet, into the part of you that has never been tired, never been anxious, never been broken. The part of you that has always known how to rest. The trees do not ask how to sleep. The rivers do not panic about stillness. The sky does not resist the coming night. They simply surrender, because they trust the rhythm. So do you. You have that same rhythm inside. You were born with it. You carried it before you had language, before you had memories. It's still there, underneath the effort, underneath the noise. You do not need to find, you need only to stop covering it. Let the breath move, let the muscles soften, let the thoughts come and go, and do nothing, absolutely nothing. Let the stillness carry you, let the gravity take your weight, let the warmth of the blanket, the darkness of the room, the hush of the air, be enough. There is nowhere to get to, there is nothing to achieve. You are not falling behind, you are not doing it wrong, you are simply being, and that is enough. Even if you are awake, you are resting, even if the thoughts are there. You are not their prisoner, even if the sleep hasn't come yet, it will, and even if it doesn't, you are still okay, because you are no longer fighting, you are floating, drifting, not because you made it happen, but because you stopped trying to. That is the essence of Zen. Stop trying to control what moves naturally, and return to what moves through you, without your help. This is the gateway, this is the path. Not effort, but trust, not achievement, but release. Not sleep as a goal, but as a gift. And you don't chase a gift, you open to it, you lie still, you breathe, you listen to the silence behind the thoughts, and you trust that even now, without changing anything, you are moving toward rest, not as something to reach, but as something to receive. So tonight, stop the pursuit, let it go, and let yourself be held by the darkness that doesn't ask anything of you, that only says, you are safe, you are enough, you can rest now, and you do. Some nights, the world feels loud, even when the room is quiet, even when no one is calling, when the lights are off, when the streets are empty. The noise continues, not outside, but within. The mind, rehearsing, the heart, remembering, the body, carrying tension that does not belong to the present moment. And yet, we try to sleep. We close our eyes, and the noise gets louder. This is where many give up. They reach for distraction, a screen, a scroll, a sound, a snack, not because they are weak, but because silence can feel unbearable when we haven't learned how to be in it. But there is another way, not to quiet the world, for that is impossible, but to change the place from which you listen. Zen teaches that the world does not have to become quiet for us to find stillness. It is our relation to the noise that determines our peace. A bird chirping is not disturbing until the mind says, I cannot sleep with that sound. The body aching is not suffering until the mind says, this pain should not be here. The thoughts are not enemies until the mind says, I must silence them. And so it begins. The war against the moment. Zen does not ask you to fix the world. It asks you to stop fighting with it. What if the noise outside is not a problem? What if the thought inside is not an interruption? What if everything can be allowed, not accepted with resignation, but allowed with softness, with trust, with the kind of deep knowing that whispers, this too belongs. You lie in bed, you hear a car in the distance, let it pass, not with irritation, but with presence. It is a sound, it arises, it fades, you feel a tightness in your shoulder. Let it be there, not because you approve of pain, but because you no longer resist what is. The mind spins another thought. Tomorrow I have to. Let it come, let it go, like wind passing through a bamboo grove. Nothing to block, nothing to hold. You are not a stone trying to stay still. You are a river, and rivers do not fight with what flows through them. They carry everything, and remain unchanged. Your thoughts are not proof that you have failed at peace, they are part of the landscape. Like clouds in the sky, peace is not the absence of cloud, it is the spaciousness of sky that allows all of them. So now, breathe, not to calm yourself, but to witness the breath that has always been there. Since before you could name it, since before you thought of control, since before the need to manage each moment, breathe, and listen. The world will not go silent, but your relationship to it will shift. You no longer brace yourself against sound, you welcome it. You no longer harden against discomfort, you witness it. You no longer chase after quiet, you become the quiet. It's not about silencing the storm, it's about being the calm eye within it. It's not about fixing the body, it's about returning to the part of you that was never broken. It's not about achieving sleep, it's about resting into what is already here. The world will keep turning, the brain will keep pulsing, the muscles will release in their own time. But you can lie here and say to yourself, I do not need to be elsewhere. I do not need to be otherwise. I do not need to be otherwise. And the moment you truly believe that, the grip loosens, the fear melts. The mind slows, not because it was commanded to, but because the one doing the commanding finally stopped. Zen is not a system to master. It is a surrender to simplicity. It is not about becoming silent. It is about becoming aware of the silence that was always there, even beneath the noise, even beneath the thoughts, even beneath the ache. You remember now, you are not the thought. You are the space that holds it. You are not the pain. You are the awareness that notices it. You are not the one failing to sleep. You are the presence that holds even that without judgment. And in that presence, you finally rest, not because the world changed, but because your way of seeing it did. You no longer chase stillness. You are stillness. You no longer seek calm. You are calm. You no longer beg for silence. You are the silence that watches the noise. And as this becomes more than an idea, as it becomes your experience, the breath deepens, the body sinks, and the sleep arrives softly, like mist, like a friend who never left, like a home you finally remember, not because you fixed the world, but because you opened the door within it, and found waiting there yourself, the self that does not cling, the self that does not strive, the self that simply is, that rest, that allows, that lives, that leaps. You are lying in your bed, eyes closed, body still, and yet somewhere deep inside, a thought pulses. This will last forever. Not the night, but the worry, the discomfort, the restlessness. It is not logical. It is not loud. It is deeper than words. It is the ancient illusion that what you feel now is what you will always feel. Zen begins with the soft shattering of that illusion. Everything changes. This breath is not the last breath. This moment is not the final chapter. Everything rises, everything falls, and so does this discomfort, so does this tiredness, so do these thoughts. In the beginning of suffering is the belief, this will not pass. But in the beginning of peace is the whisper, this too is changing. There is no thought that does not dissolve, no emotion that does not loosen, no moment that has not already ended. And so tonight, you are invited to release the need to hold on, even to the problem, even to the tension, even to the idea that I cannot sleep. That thought too is impermanent. It came, it will go. You are not broken, you are not stuck, you are simply alive. In a river that never pauses, not for joy, not for sorrow, not for you, not for anything. The river moves, and you move with it. Zen is not about stopping the current, it is about learning to float, to try to understand that just because you are here now, does not mean you will be here always. Tonight's discomfort is not forever. Tonight's overthinking is not permanent. Even the body which feels so heavy in bed, will shift, stretch, change again. And when we let this truth enter our awareness deeply, honestly, completely, something relaxes. Not just the shoulders, but the fear, because what is fear if not the belief that something painful will last too long, that it will trap us, that it will define us. But pain does not last, neither phases of the moon, nor seasons, nor sleepless nights, nor racing minds. Everything moves. You remember this, you feel it now. The breath moves in, the breath moves out. You are not doing it, it is happening as each inhale begins, each exhale ends. Even the breath does not try to stay. It trusts its rhythm. It knows impermanence is not the enemy, it is the way. And so, you lie here, not trying to escape your thoughts, but watching them like clouds passing. One says, I'm worried about tomorrow. It drifts in, and drifts out. Another says, why can't I sleep? It too rises and fades. None stay, they appear, they vanish. You won't need to push them, they will go. Not because you resist, but because everything eventually leaves. Even the thoughts you've rehearsed for years, even the stories you tell yourself. When the lights go out, they are not fixed, they are not stone, they are echoes. And echoes fade. Let yourself feel the relief of that. You will not need to carry every worry to the morning. You will not need to resolve every tension before sleep. You will not need to finish the story before the page turns. Let the page turn by itself. Let the body turn by itself. Let the mind dissolve by itself. And you, the watcher, need only to stay soft, present, unclenched. Because nothing you feel tonight will remain, not even the effort to let go. That too will fall away, until there's only space, only openness, only awareness. Without content, sleep does not begin with stillness, it begins with surrender.
And surrender begins with understanding. This too shall pass. There is a reason monks sit in meditation, not to escape pain, but to watch it fade. Not to avoid discomfort, but to learn that discomfort is a guest, not a tenant. And so is this night. And so is this racing heart. And so is this moment of waiting for sleep. It's not forever. Nothing is. Zen asks you to live, to rest, to sleep. Not as if you are building a permanent home, but as if you are sitting by a fire that will soon go out. Grateful, present, aware of the glow, without trying to freeze it in place. Tonight, let go of the wish that tomorrow will be easier, and let in the truth that tonight will not last. It will change. Your breath will deepen. Your awareness will blur. The muscles will loosen. The thoughts will quiet, not because you made them, but because that is their nature. And if you can watch that happening without rushing it, you will find yourself on the edge of sleep, not pushing, not planning, not asking, just allowing, trusting. And as the last thought begins to dissolve, as the last tightness begins to loosen, you will remember something older than memory. The body knows how to sleep. The heart knows how to slow. The mind knows how to stop. You do not need to instruct them. You need only to remove the illusion of permanence. And everything softens. Everything releases. Everything returns to where it belongs, including you. The body remembers what the mind forgets. It remembers how to breathe before words. It remembers how to cry before thoughts. It remembers how to rest before plans. But somewhere along the way, we were taught to override that memory, taught that we must manage everything, direct everything, command everything, including sleep. We turn bedtime into another performance. We try to do sleep the same way we try to succeed, by effort. But the body doesn't rest because it's ordered to. It rests because it's safe. That's the key. Safety. When the body feels safe, it lets go. When the body feels trusted, it releases it, not because it was told to, but because it no longer feels the need to protect. And yet, in modern life, we've built a culture of distrust toward the body. We push it when it asks for rest. We numb it when it signals discomfort. We shame it when it slows down. And then, at night, we wonder, why can't I sleep? Zen turns this question upside down. Not why can't I sleep, but why am I still trying to control it? You see, your body doesn't sleep because you tell it to. It sleeps because you finally step aside. The breath knows the rhythm. The muscles know the release. The nervous system knows how to downshift. If only we let it. And so tonight you are not here to force anything. You are here to remember. Remember that sleep is a return, not a task. You lie still. You feel your body, not as a collection of parts, but as a whole system. A living intelligence that has survived storms, silence, sickness, and time, and still it knows how to bring you home. The body does not ask questions. It does not hold grudges. It does not rush. It only waits patiently until you stop fighting. You breathe in, not deeply, not perfectly, just enough. The breath enters without needing your help. You breathe out, and it releases more than just air. It releases control. With each exhale, the body receives a message. You are allowed to stop now, not because everything is done, not because the mind is silent, but because you are no longer interfering. The greatest barrier to rest is not noise. It is resistance, not the body resisting sleep, but the mind resisting stillness. So feel this, your head on the pillow, the space behind your eyes, the warmth across your chest. There is no instruction manual for this. There is no right way to rest, only a willingness to trust that the body, when unhindered, will do what it has always done. It will recover, it will reset, it will return to stillness. This is not a spiritual metaphor, it is biology, the deep parasympathetic rhythm that carries you into sleep, and it is waiting, always waiting, beneath your thoughts, beneath your plans, beneath the noise of needing to fix, to heal, to change. There is a rhythm, ancient, stable, alive, and when you stop trying to reach it, you fall into it, like a feather, like a stone dropped gently in water. No splash, just sinking, effortless. You don't have to believe in anything, just stop interrupting the process that's already underway. You are not a machine that needs to be powered down. You are a living organism that knows how to rest, how to breathe, how to sleep. Sleep is not created, it is returned. It is not produced, it is remembered. The deer in the forest doesn't practice mindfulness. The child doesn't meditate on muscle relaxation. They simply drop, naturally, into sleep when the world allows it. Your task tonight is not to perform some technique. It is to allow the world, your inner world, to become quiet enough to feel safe again. That means no criticism, no judgment, no "I should be asleep by now." That's not rest, that's pressure. You are not a machine under deadline. You are a body under the stars, breathing, trusting, falling back into its own nature. So here you are, still, listening, feeling. You may notice the hum of a distant sound. Let it pass. You may feel the swirl of a restless thought. Let it pass. You may hear your heart beating, loud at first, then soft. It is not a disturbance. It is a reminder. You are alive, and you are safe. This safety is not a condition, it's a choice. A choice to say, even if I don't sleep right away, I am okay. A choice to say, even if the thoughts come, I do not have to chase them. A choice to say, even now, in this body, with these thoughts, I trust. This trust is radical. It goes against the grain of modern life, but it is older than fear.
older than anxiety, older than the thoughts, trying to fix everything. So breathe again. Notice how the breath has changed, slower, deeper, more natural, not because you controlled it, but because you stopped interrupting it. This is the body, remembering its rhythm, the rhythm of letting go, the rhythm of the earth, the rhythm of the ocean, the rhythm of sleep. It is not something to understand, it is something to surrender to. Your muscles do not need to be told to relax. They will, when they are no longer guarding. Your heart does not need to be instructed to slow down. It will, when the pressure to perform is lifted. And your mind, even your mind will grow quiet, not when you tell it to, but when you no longer believe its every word. It will settle, like dust in sunlight, naturally, effortlessly, without command, because this is what the body does. When left alone, when trusted, when loved, it returns to the center, and from that center, sleep rises, not as a reward, but as a reunion. So now, as the breath moves in and out, as the body lies in weight and warmth, as the thoughts drift like distant stars in a vast sky, you do nothing, and in that nothing, everything begins to soften, and soften, and soften, until all that remains is the truth that was always waiting. You were never far from rest, you only needed to remember. There is a common belief, hidden beneath many restless nights, that peace will come after the bills are paid, after the emails are answered, after the body feels perfect, after the thoughts are gone. But in Zen, there is no after. There is only this moment, this breath, this awareness. Everything else is a projection, a dream, a postponement of rest. So many people lie awake, not because their body is tense, or their room is noisy, but because they have attached peace to a condition. I'll rest when I feel better. I'll sleep once I stop thinking. I'll calm down after I solve this. But peace doesn't wait. It's not the finish line. It's the ground you're already standing on. It's here, now, exactly as things are, not because they're perfect, but because you no longer demand that they be. That is the Zen shift, from managing reality, to meeting it, from resisting discomfort, to holding it, from fighting what is, to bowing to it. So tonight, you are not here to fix your thoughts. You are here to stop running from them, not to shut them down, but to notice them, not to fear them, but to befriend them. Because what you can look at with softness loses its power to harm. So let us begin with the simplest truth. You do not need to deserve rest. You do not need to earn stillness. You do not need to justify your exhaustion. It is enough that you are tired. It is enough that the day has ended. It is enough that you are here, breathing, willing to listen to your own heart again. That willingness is everything. It is the gate. It opens the body. It opens the nervous system. It opens the possibility of sleep, but only when you stop chasing something different than what is here. There is no better moment coming. This is the moment, the one with the hum in the background, the one with the stiffness in your lower back, the one with the memory that just floated up, unwanted. It is all part of it. Zen teaches us that reality is not the problem. Our demand that it be otherwise is. So lie still, feel the breath, feel the ache, if it's there, feel the anxiety, if it's there, and say to it, with the tenderness of a friend, you can stay. I am not afraid of you tonight. That is presence, that is peace. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the absence of resistance. What does that feel like? It feels like letting the heart beat fast, and not needing it to slow. It feels like allowing a thought to repeat, and not needing to argue. It feels like letting the eyes close slowly, with no pressure to fall asleep fast. It feels like being not doing, being awake, and still being restful, being aware and still being safe. This is the strange truth of Zen. The moment you stop demanding peace, you find, like a bird that lands only when the hand is still. So now, let your hand be still. Let your breath be unforced. Let the sounds around you rise and fall. You are not performing. You are not fixing. You are not proving anything. You are simply being with what is. This may sound passive, but it is the most active form of compassion. To be with what is, without needing it to change. To lie in bed and say, yes, I feel restless, and I will not run. Yes, I feel unsettled, and I will not scold myself. Yes, I feel unfinished, and still, I will rest. That is strength. That is love. That is the doorway to true sleep, not the sleep that hides, the sleep that heals, because it comes not from escape, but from trust. Trust that the moment does not need to be different. Trust that your body does not need to be silent. Trust that your life, even in its incompleteness, is still worthy of rest. And from that trust, the muscles soften, the jaw loosens, the breath deepens, and the thoughts, without being silenced, grow quiet on their own. Not gone, but less sharp, like voices in the next room. Muffled by distance, they are no longer the center, because you are no longer their captive. You are watching, you are resting, you are floating within your own awareness. You have returned to yourself, not the self that needs to improve, the self that simply is, complete, whole, held by the moment. You might still feel tired, you might still feel unready for tomorrow, but you do not feel alone in it. You are here, now, with breath, with body, with awareness, and in that presence, the weight lifts. Even if the circumstances stay the same, even if the tasks remain unfinished, even if the thoughts do not stop completely, still, the peace has come, because you have arrived, and you are no longer trying to leave. It is night again, the light has gone, the world has dimmed, and yet the mind remains bright. It spins, it remembers, it plans, like a candle that forgot it could go out. But what if the night is not here to fight you? What if it is not an enemy, but an invitation to stop holding so tightly, to stop measuring your day by what you accomplished, to stop measuring your worth by how productive you were. The night does not ask for your resume. It does not ask if you succeeded or failed. It only asks if you are willing to be quiet, not outside, but inside, because that is where real sleep begins. Not when the room is dark, but when the self is quiet, not silent, quiet. There's a difference. Silence can be forced. Quiet is allowed. Quiet happens when you stop feeding the noise, when you stop chasing the echo, when you stop fearing the next thought before it even arrives. Zen is not about emptying the mind. It's about remembering that you are not the mind. You are the one who watches, the one who notices, the one who listens, and that part of you is never disturbed. It is still, it is open, it is the night within the night. So tonight, do not try to make your thoughts disappear. Just stop following them. Like a train, you can let pass by. Without boarding, you sit, you breathe, you feel the hum of the body, the rhythm of the breath, the softness of the pillow. All of these are part of the invitation, a return to yourself, to the place beneath the plans and pasts and projections, a place that does not need anything fixed, because nothing was ever broken. Yes, the day was long. Yes, the mind is tired. Yes, the body carries tension, but none of that needs to be solved before sleep. You are not a puzzle. You are a person, and people are allowed to rest, even when unresolved, especially when unresolved. That's what the night is for, to hold what we cannot carry anymore, to hold it without needing to explain, to hold it without needing to finish. So let the night hold you. Not as a punishment, not as a delay, but as a sacred rhythm that asks you to stop pretending you can do this alone. You can't, and you were never meant to. That's why the sky goes dark. That's why the stars appear, to remind you, the world continues without your effort. The trees are not worried. The rivers are not rushing to complete tasks. Even the moon does not shine by its own power. It simply reflects. Can you reflect? Can you allow the light to come from elsewhere, not from your mind, but from something deeper, softer, older? The body knows this rhythm. The nervous system waits for it. Every night, it hopes you'll return to stillness, to the unforced state of being, to the place where rest is not a reward, but a right. The noise may still be there. It doesn't need to leave. You simply don't need to respond. Let the thoughts move. Let the tension fade. When it's ready, you are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you are meant to be, in bed, with breath, and the night all around you. That is enough. You do not need a better version of this moment. You only need to be inside it, with all its imperfections, all its humanness, all its truth. That is where the quiet begins, not by silencing the world, but by ceasing to argue with it. You stop fighting, and in that pause, the real night begins. Not the night marked by clocks or shadows, but the inner night, the sanctuary, the silent temple where you remember. You don't have to think your way to rest. You only need to stop running from what is already still. The breath, the pulse, the gentle ache of being alive. Let it all be here, and then let it all fade, naturally, without force, without fear, without effort, like a tide retreating, like mist dissolving in morning light. And you, lying in that invisible space between doing and being, between holding and letting go, between awake and asleep, you find something rare. You find yourself, undisturbed by your own mind. And there, rest is no longer a destination. It is the place you never actually left. You've come this far, not by force, not by understanding, but by staying, through the noise, staying, through the thoughts, staying, through the longing for rest that never quite arrives on command. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still softening, still being. This is the final step. And the simplest. No more concept, no more reflection, no more instructions. Just this. You do not need to know how to sleep. You do not need to master a technique. You do not need to analyze the process. You only need to allow. That's the essence of the final teaching. Sleep, like peace, is not taught. It is remembered. The body knows. The breath knows. The darkness itself knows. But the mind, the wonderful, clever, curious mind, often forgets that it is not in charge, and so it stays busy, worried it might forget something, worried it might miss something, worried it might lose control. But here, in this moment, nothing needs to be remembered, nothing needs to be caught, nothing needs to be controlled, because there is nothing more to do. Zen does not ask you to transcend your thoughts. It does not ask you to eliminate them. It only asks you to see them as they are. Clouds, not the sky. They pass, they drift, they darken, they lighten, but the sky remains unmoved. That is you, the watcher, the quiet, the open space behind it all. So now, let even the thoughts about sleep go. Let the voice that says, "I hope I fall asleep soon," soften. Let the voice that says, "I'm not doing this right," fade. Let the voice that says, "I need to fix this moment," dissolve. None of them are you. You are the space in which those voices echo, and the space does not resist. It holds, gently, with no effort. You may still hear your thoughts. You may still feel your body shift. You may still wonder how long until sleep comes. That's okay. You don't need to stop wondering. You just don't need to answer. Not tonight. Tonight is not a test. It is not a performance. It is a return, a surrender to something older than strategy, older than words. The earth knows how to rest. The trees know how to rest. The waves pull back from the shore without needing to be told. So can you. Let the breath come. Let it go. Let the muscles soften where they can. And if they cannot, that is fine too. There is no exam at the end of the night, no scorecard in the morning, only this gentle unfolding of being. Zen calls this non-doing, but it is not passivity. It is trust. Trust in what already works, not because you make it work, but because it is life's nature to move toward balance. If you don't interfere, you lie on your back, or your side, or your stomach. It doesn't matter. There is no correct posture for surrender, only honesty, only willingness to stop pretending that you must manage the moonrise, to stop believing that sleep is earned through perfection. It isn't, it is gifted. When you are ready to stop trying, you've heard so many voices, so many opinions, so many hacks for how to fall asleep faster. But the body is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be respected. It knows how to enter rest, how to enter dreams, how to enter healing. It is not broken. It is not behind. It is simply waiting for you to stop getting in the way. So here we are. No goal, no step, no formula, just presence, soft, unarmed, unhurried. If thoughts come, notice them like footsteps on a distant path. They're moving away already. If sensations arise, feel them fully, then let them dissolve, like mist through your fingers. There is no need to hold on to anything, and that includes this moment. You can let even this go, even these words, even this voice. Nothing is required of you now. Not understanding, not clarity, not peace, not even sleep. The irony is, when you stop demanding sleep, it comes, not always fast, not always the way you expect, but it comes, because sleep is not a trick to master. It is a mercy to receive. You are not here to fight for it. You are here to open to it, to feel its edge, to rest into its arms, not because you deserve it, but because you are alive, and aliveness, when allowed to soften, always returns to stillness, always returns to rhythm, always returns home. There is no finish line, only this breath, only this pause, only this perfect imperfection, lying in the dark, listening to the silence behind the noise, and from that silence, sleep begins, not like a door that shuts, but like a light that fades, softly, gently, invisibly, and you, floating inside it, need not do anything but stay, without force, stay, without need, stay, without trying to leave, and sleep, when it is ready, will take you exactly where you were always meant to go.